Yeah, so the agenda quickly, we're going to run over how the academy ran, and then we're going to hand over to the three teams that are going to come up and present. One being Acurast, Scytale, and Symbiotix Health. Mark and Matthias, for a long time before I even arrived at Scytale, had kind of decided how, they can start and envisioned an accelerator incubator program that was really unique to Scytale. And so we sat down and we decided, okay, what key aspects do we really want to touch on at the academy? And the first thing that was resounding was we really want to help grow the Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem. And for us, we really want to add projects of high value to the ecosystem. And that was something that we all agreed upon. The next aspect was we wanted to find a way to mitigate the risk of pre-seed investments or early stage investments. This is something that's really difficult. Obviously, there's no validation to projects. There's no VCs before you. There's no users, especially in Web3. That's something that we struggle with. And so we said we'd rather work with teams for a 10-week period and really get to know the founders, understand them, and then make the decision of potentially investing. So it was a bit of a different approach, and hopefully it's successful. It is a trial run, so we'll see how it works out. And then on the flip side, we still wanted to be of use to the teams, even if we didn't invest. So we still wanted them to have a period of learning, a period of coming to present to you, which is a big privilege, and we still wanted to be of high value to all these teams. And finally, as everyone knows, Scytale loves its synergies. Scytale loves connecting its portfolio founders, and we really wanted to grow our own ecosystem. I think we want to be much more than just a fund. We would really want to kind of stamp our authority within Web3. And we also wanted a real sense of camaraderie between our portfolio projects. And when I get to the list, you'll see everyone was involved, and it's super special for us, and it's super special to have all the portfolio founders here to kind of share this journey with us. So for the last 10 weeks, as Christoph has said, we have worked with 4 teams, 3 of which we'll present today. To run over it as quick as possible, if anybody's interested, I'll explain it in a bit more detail later. But we had broad educational kind of sessions run by our portfolio project founders. We had external mentorship. We completely wanted to have a different opinion on the project. So obviously you've got the opinions of us that are investors, but we wanted opinions from founders that, we've invested in. So it's a completely different outlook, looking kind of from the outside in. And then we had group sessions where the founders kind of sat down and discussed issues and hopefully found some synergies. We had and then obviously the opportunity to present here, which for them is really a privilege. And then finally, which was the core element of the program, was the internal mentorship that was run by myself and Matthias. And that really ties into how we look at research at Scytale and how the methodology and the research methodology ties into what we do. So I'm going to hand over to Matthias to speak a little bit more about it.
Thanks, Jake. Fantastic. I'm trying to give you a bit of the context of why we did the Academy in the first place and what was our thought process there and what you have learned also as a team, so coming from the research side. So my name is Matthias Tarasiewicz. I'm head of research at Scytale. And essentially, you have to understand also that supporting a fund and making sure that everything works out there from the diligence side, from the research side, means that we have a team and have a pipeline and have to do so many things, structure so many things, so that research is for us, we have specific methods how to do it. We have a lot of data, and we wanted to make these kind of data also available to the ecosystem. So we wanted to make sure that we can actually give back, and also with our experience over the years, to make sure that the companies starting in Polkadot get better, but also that we can actually make our context and our background a bit work. So essentially, what we tried to do and what I did already 1 year ago, I'm not sure if any one of you was at this talk, but at Polkadot Decoded, I started to present our initial thoughts and started to discuss the program. And essentially, this was 1 year ago. And since then, a lot of things evolved and restructured. And we thought also with our team, how can we make this work? How can we be of maximum value as a fund? So essentially, from our diligence process itself and from all our processes, this is actually an excerpt of the talk from last year. We have to make sure sometimes that the technology really works, that something is really there. So we have different phases of looking at things. We have a few quick diligence methods, and we have a few more in-depth diligence methods. So we had to build up a complete tech team that knows Polkadot very well, that knows all the issues that can arise, and that can actually look at the code in order to understand what's going on. So think about some code review types. So we're not doing audits in this kind of extent, but we're looking at the code. We have to understand it. And so that means we also know what kind of problems exist in the Polkadot ecosystem and what often is a problem for the founders. So we thought, okay, how can we make that possible to get actually to the founders? And so we created something which we call the Scytale method. And this was also presented last year at Polkadot Decoded. And we grew from that idea of the Scytale method a bit more into what we have now and what we want to show you also, what the different projects came out with. That was our starting point to understand, okay, how can we make ourselves valuable to the ecosystem? And you see, like, we looked at an insane amount of projects over the past years. We didn't look very deeply in all these 4,200 projects, but that's from our database. That's a lot of projects. And for more than 70 tech projects, we did a deep tech analysis. And for more than 25, we really did more than that. So that was a lot of data for us, a lot of things, a lot of methodical things to think about. If you switch to the next slide. So we initially thought, and that was the 3 points we thought in the beginning that we will be helpful with, to structure the research, to outline novel ways to validate, because the problem that we identified is a lot of the Web3 founders, they wouldn't go this classical route like startups usually do, where you ask the users, you try to figure out, is there a market for something, and then build for exactly that market. It would be the other way around. I think it could possibly be because you get like funding early. So that's definitely one thing why there would be something built that doesn't necessarily have a user base immediately. So that's this kind of divide that we identified in the Web3 space. And so we wanted to also provide methods to de-risk that. So to also, of course, coming from a fund perspective, how can the fund de-risk? How can we make sure that this technology is actually doable, is there, like all these kind of things. But to make this more tangible, we split our whole program then into 4 sections. One being, and these are elements we figured out that every founder, every team somehow is struggling with, and we had like positive and negative examples for that. So as the first topic, you see continuous competitor research as a tool. And maybe let's jump to the next slide where I'm discussing this a bit. So we believe that, and all the strong companies we looked at, they really do utilize continuously competitor research as a tool to not make mistakes twice and not to have to make every mistake, but you can learn so much from other mistakes from others. You get a lot of free data that is available. So what we also wanted to teach is like to not have a too tiny or like narrow approach of your competitors. Like, so we figured out that this is important to also think about all possible competitors that are out there that could be potentially even in the future competitors. And that's actually really helpful. And this is how we can create some data-driven analysis also and decision-making for the whole startup quite early. Second thing, and this is interesting because I think we did also get into some new grounds there. So we tried to a bit make our process as a fund also transparent to the founders. So we're trying to make them understand that they will be categorized. Also, you've seen this insane amounts of projects we had to deal with in the past. So we are, of course, categorizing. There's like different analysts that get different data, that get different projects. So this kind of narrative of where you position your project as a DeFi project, as another project, definitely shapes who will be reading your pitch deck, who will be reading all the data. And so we try to teach also like how to circumvent that, how to get to some USP, or how to stand out of the mass, so to say. And there's like different methods to do that. What's the most important for us is to find validation, to find data for validation so we can prove. So essentially the founders get also certainty about their products, that you can de-risk the production, but also you get to some certain extent really confident in your product, and that's super important. And so actually gathering data, finding data, and providing the necessary tools to get that data, that was one of the challenges we had. And finally, of course, crypto economics. So without all that data, without proper users, it's really tough to create specific user types, or like to simulate systems, to even think of an incentivized test system or some other systems that you need to design that go beyond code governance. So on the one hand, or initially, crypto economics is always seen as the tool for the governance, but it can be so much more. So this is really, to that extent, interesting and important, because if we want to reach mass adoption with Polkadot, we have to think not only to cater towards developers, but also to a broader user base. And so there have to be, it's not a super formalized field yet, crypto economics, but we can learn so much from this almost 10 years now of crypto economics. And this is something we ideally also can give to the project. I guess like that was a quick overview of the program. I don't want to give too much time away, and let's.
Yeah, I think quickly a couple thank yous are needed. Yeah, for the workshops, Sergio from Public Pressure ran an awesome workshop. Bill from Web3 Foundation ran a really good workshop. Source and Jeroen from Odyssey, Donnie from Moon Sama, Dave Perry ×2, he was a mentor as well, and he ran a great workshop. Alan Vey from Aventus, Rafaela from Jur, James from On Finality, and then our external mentors, Fabio Cardoni, Alex from Sumi, Lucas from Centrifuge, Angie Dalton from Signum Growth Capital, and Andre from Aventus. Yeah, so unbelievable. I mean, the turnout we had, it really is a whole Scytale portfolio network, collective, and we got together. We hopefully ran something that was really, really special. But I'm going to hand over to Acurast to start presenting.
My name is Alessandro de Carli, and the first time that I got in touch with Web3 was in 2015. And back then, someone approached me, and we started a project that basically was solving a very trivial task, namely being able to pay for a coffee before the coffee would get cold. Now, back then, it's 2015, people were still using laptops as their wallets, so that needed to change. As well, you had block confirmations that would take about 10 minutes, so by then your coffee would get cold. And what grew out of this project were two things. On one hand, you have Christian Decker that later on has furthered down his research and went down the route to create the Lightning Network and research on the Lightning Network, while I went more on the self-custody side and how to use mobile devices with our company to provide for self-custody. And through this project, we actually got in touch with a lot of other projects in the crypto ecosystems. And we identified that one of the things that is really holding back adoption is ultimately interoperability. And when we're talking about interoperability, it's not only the interoperability between blockchains, but also the interoperability between the old Web2 world and these blockchains, as well as the interoperability between all of these components and newer technologies such as AI, which we heard earlier on. Because let's face it, the user ultimately does not care on which technology something is built. They do care, however, about a very frictionless user experience that is fluent and does not require them to change the tech stack. As well, they care, of course, a lot about security. And this is a huge opportunity because if you now all of a sudden are able to make everything more interoperable, then you will ultimately unlock that full potential of Web3 adoption we're all looking for. Now, the way Acurast works is basically we're creating a developer abstraction where people can interact with all these other worlds that are connected into the ecosystem. And Acurast itself runs as a parachain in the epicenter of Web3 interoperability in the .sama ecosystem, of course. And the way that a developer talks and uses these services is very similar to the concept of a prisma. So basically, you use a language which is very well known for developers, and it's also a very low entry barrier for them, so they can use JavaScript to express what kind of interoperability they're looking for, what kind of interaction with any other component they're looking for, and then they're offered this wide spectrum of modules and other worlds they can talk to. Now, you might wonder, how is this all actually possible? And the secret sauce, so to speak, lies in a device that you're all carrying around. It's the mobile device. And people tend to not really appreciate to the full extent the security that is packed in that mobile device. Because you see, mobile devices don't have the privilege like a server installed in a rack of having physical security, right? Because if you're in a data center, well, then it's clear not everybody can enter there and just grab that thing out. So the engineers over at iOS and Android were challenged to bring basically hardware that would allow the consumer to do very security sensitive tasks like mobile banking, like using a wallet, like executing a trade on an exchange, with a device that basically you can forget in a taxi or can get stolen from you. That's why the most research in the hardware security module space actually has happened on mobile devices. And that's kind of what we're building on. So one of the components that we call the processor is something that runs on a mobile device. More specifically, it takes full control over the mobile device and offers the trusted execution environment of that device to the decentralized network, which is this parachain I mentioned earlier. And this offers some very, very cool features and properties. For instance, you can now all of a sudden ask someone to basically execute code on your data and get the results back without them ever seeing your data. But they're doing this for you, right? So yes, and this is ultimately what the whole thing is built on. And on one side, very interesting for people that want to provide infrastructure. So they want to dedicate their device as a computing unit to the network and earn rewards for them, so get paid. Just like other people are paying for Amazon Web Services, they will be paying for this computing unit. And on the other hand, of course, the people that actually want to use this decentralized computation mass. And the developer gets into an environment which is very modular. Now, you see the first two modules are already out there and people can start using. And to make them a little bit less abstract for you, let me talk about the use cases that they enable, and they're being used for as well in production. Now, for the enterprise module, one of the use cases is actually the ability to observe data on centralized exchanges so that the DeFi platform could value a certain digital asset. Other options are as well to basically have Web 2 to Web 2 communication in a trustless, decentralized, permissionless way between two games. So you have two Web 2 games that are trying to export a certain asset to another one. Or you can also think about a DAO that is trying to control a Twitter feed, so going the other way around, so from Web 3 to Web 2. When it comes to hyperdrive, this is basically a message passing or mechanism that allows you to communicate outside of ecosystems. So from Polkadot, go over to Ethereum, for instance, or also any other ecosystem that is kind of in there. When we're looking a little bit more to the future, all of a sudden, we foresee that it will be quite easy to have a lot of processors, so people that are dedicating their devices. Now we need to give them something to do, and AI, more specifically machine learning, is actually quite a cool use case that we are now putting also on the roadmap, because it allows people to use this property of training a model confidentially, like you never give them the data, and also the output is something that only you will receive. Everything comes together in what we call the marketplace for universal interoperability. And this is basically a very liquid marketplace that matches whoever wants to specify these tasks, and then whoever wants to work on those tasks and get the rewards I mentioned earlier. From a team's perspective, it's a team that has been working together for quite some time now. For instance, Pascal, who will be joining us later, and I date back since 2009 back. And with Mike, I met him in 2014, then started to work with us as the Chief Technology Officer since a couple of years now. Markus Städler, on the business development side, comes more from a Microsoft world, where enterprise sales was his bread and butter. And of course, also very diverse advisor team. Without going too much into details here, but we have Jean-Philippe Aumasson, a very good cryptographer that actually co-designed the Blake hashing algorithm. Then Bea Knecht, very successful entrepreneur in the Swiss market that owned and co-founded Zattoo, a streaming service. Jörg Bühler on the more enterprise sales side, and then Lukas Vogelsang, that from CEO from Centrifuge that you've seen earlier today, and we managed to convince to become an advisor thanks to the Scytale Academy. On the achievement side, we have here a couple of things. I will only highlight some of those. Of course, the great opportunity that was given to us to join the Scytale Academy. On the other hand, we're also part of the blockchain accelerator program over at Berkeley. Reason why Pascal is currently not here, but traveling to here. Then the Sony Astor incubation program, and Substrate Builders program, and the Interchain Builders program. The tech is real, so people can already start using it, and the MVP is there. We have acquired also a Kusama slot that will allow us to launch the incentivized Canary network. And also from the community side, we have processors that have quite a reputation, like banks with Signum, brokers like Bitcoin Suisse, or custody providers like Taurus. Now, if this excites you as much as I am excited about it, you can, of course, get involved. There are many ways. On one hand, as a backer, there is a seed round and a token generation event that will be upcoming. If you're willing to dedicate a device to the network and start earning the rewards, well, then you probably should head over to processor.acurast.com. Developers can read more about the resources on the docs.acurast.com. There will be a webinar for developers the 11th of May, if you're interested. And then, of course, you can follow us on Twitter. With that being said, thank you very much for listening to me. And if there's anything that I want you to take away from this, are two things. On one hand, that we absolutely need this concept of universal interoperability to really kick off the next wave of adoption. I'm a firm believer of that, because as I said, the user does not really care about the underlying technology. And the other thing is, I hope you appreciate now your mobile device a little more, because it is really packed with a lot of technology and awesome things. So thank you very much, and I'll hand over to Symbiotix for the next presentation.
Hi, thank you very much. So my name's Chaz Dabhia. I'm the founder of Symbiotix Healthcare. Just a bit of a background on myself. I've got 25 years professional experience. So I spent 15 years working in hedge funds, and then the last 10 years I've been working in healthcare and tech, largely in business development roles and corporate finance. So just a little bit about the story. I got involved with healthcare, which led to the sort of launch of Symbiotix about 6 years ago, when I started working for a health tech company. At that time, we were building electronic health record systems for countries in Africa. And basically, the various problems that we encountered was there was poor infrastructure, no real data, no chain of custody, and really there was no way of knowing that medicines and the money was actually getting to where they were supposed to be getting. I also worked at the Global Fund, which is one of the world's largest healthcare funds based here in Geneva. It was set up by the Gates Foundation. That was a very interesting experience because they allocate $4 billion a year. When you actually go out on the ground, there was actually no systems. There was paper health records. So there was no real way of knowing actually, are these patients getting better? So all of that takeaway, I guess, was really interesting, but it was all based around data collection. And I think the biggest takeaway that we had during those various projects that I did, there was huge interest from the pharma space for data. So just moving a little bit, what is Symbiotix? I think obviously Gavin brought it up. There hasn't been too much talk about healthcare. But yeah, basically Symbiotix, we've been going for about 2 years. The founders have been working now together for several years on the sort of concept, and we only formally launched it about a year and a half ago. So we've got a very interesting mix of people from technology, healthcare, pharmaceutical industry. And essentially what we are building is a B2B marketplace. So we are looking to disrupt the way health data is shared and monetized. I think the big question that we tried to focus on is, can we take health data, curate and package it, and then find willing buyers? And obviously the biggest caveat there is privacy around healthcare. Obviously that goes without. And there's a huge amount of legislation around protecting that. And I think just a little bit, why do we exist? I mean, ultimately it's a bit crude to talk about monetization, but the ultimate end goal here, we're really trying to improve health outcomes. And we can basically help cure certain diseases where there is no proper data. Just a little bit about the team. I previously worked with Aventus, who you heard speak before, and Alan helped some sort of push this sort of idea forward. But basically, as you can see, we've got a very interesting group of people. So we have 2 board members, the ex-CEO of Merck, the ex-head of vaccines. They've spent a lot of time helping us put together the idea and also giving us really good access. We've got one of our founders works for the largest health record company globally. We've also got UK's leading health data professor. So overall, in terms of our approach, I don't think we went out there trying to sell everyone on a system. What we've done is, because of the industry contacts we've just gone and knocked on doors and said, look, we're just looking to listen to some of your problems and friendly fact-finding. So, and I guess we try to take all of those different vantage points and take them on board. In terms of what is the problem? I mean, the problem is that just now there's too much data. 30% of all data that exists comes from healthcare. Yet 80% of that data is unstructured and unusable. So it just sits there and we can't really access it. So when we were talking to various sort of pharma companies, life science companies, the overall message was, look, data is very poor and it's difficult to use. A lot of the data that exists normally comes from insurance companies, which is not also, it's sort of after the event. So we believe that we are going to change the way that data is unlocked. And actually the data insights we're providing, we believe will be much more meaningful and powerful. So I'm going to be a little bit controversial and just put it back. I know it's the end of the day. I want to put 2 questions out there, and there's no caveats or no other sides. So I'm going to ask for a quick show of hands. How many people here would be willing to share their health data? No caveats. Okay. My next question is, how many people here would be willing to share their health data if it would help in advancing a disease that they were suffering from? Yeah, pretty unanimous. So I think the point is, if it was something that was personal to us, of course you'd help, and of course you'd want to try to solve that. Just a little bit about the overall total addressable market. At the moment, I mean, health data market doesn't really exist because it's a very opaque market. Pricing has been very difficult, even with all of our contacts that we've got in the pharma space. But basically, I think COVID sort of advanced all of that. We wouldn't have had the vaccines on the market if we hadn't have used data, and well, vaccines were made in a very quick time. Obviously, the legislation's changing quite a lot. So now that we can potentially share health data without compromising privacy, maybe using synthetic data or de-identified data. Just a little bit about in terms of values. I mean, one pharma company we spoke to in the US, they spent last year 100 million buying health data alone from one platform. There's one company which I won't mention, but they turned over 20 billion and it's very opaque and nobody really knows what it's doing. So the opportunity here that we believe is that if we could, unlock some of this health data and put it to good use, it's good for everyone. So we've been speaking to health systems, both government and private, over the last sort of 2 years. I think the common point is that they all know that they're sitting on very valuable health data and they're figuring out how to leverage that. So synthesizing data can help address some of those concerns. But ultimately, the insights are much more powerful than the actual data. So if you know where the problem areas are in your population, then you can put resources onto helping fix that. So we are now I'll talk a little bit about where we are in our sort of phase. We're going into a pilot, but we've been talking with a government health system in the Middle East where it's totally legal. And they basically said that for them, downstream visibility, i.e. who actually has access to their data, is the most important point that they want to see in the platform. So in terms of also it's seen as a little bit crude, but monetizing around health data, it is there, but it does provide an incentive for people to share. And also, you can also earn royalties from the health data. So when we mean life science companies, we're talking about everyone from pharma companies. There's been a number of drug discovery companies that have popped up in the last 3 years post-COVID, which are using data and AI to further drug development. We've been talking to them. So we've spoken to several, 2 drug discovery companies we're talking to now. They've given us a shopping list. One is developing a drug in diabetes, another one in heart disease. So they basically said, look, here's our 10, 15 fields that we need in order to further our development of the drug. Can you give us that? So, and again, that underlying information is out there, but it's just unlocking it. So where we are right now, we're about to sort of start our pilot where we are working with this government health system they basically give us their data. We've been given that shopping list by this drug discovery company, and we're going to extract that information. And the way that we're doing it, and we don't like to call it NFT, but let's say tokenized access, so that we can see how that data moves from the source to the buyers, but we can see exactly who's accessed it. So the pilot will show how that data is packaged and tokenized, but we're also just going to show it as deeply discounted, because it's just obviously a pilot to show that we've got willing health systems who are providing the health system data and buyers. So essentially what this does is proves out our commercial business platform. I think over time, but I just wanted to thank you for listening. I know it's the end of the day and everyone's tired. And thank you for the Scytale team to having us. I heard that there was quite a lot of competition, so thank you.
All right, hi there. How's it going? So I know it's the end of the day, so I'll keep it brief and short and make sure we stay on time and to schedule. But my name's Graeme Fox. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Scytale. And I just want to thank the Scytale team for allowing us to join the Academy and be here today. It's a pleasure to present our project in front of you. A little bit of information about myself. Background engineering, been scaling and building startups for the last 5 years. I spent the last 4 in blockchain development, working from the Corda blockchain to the Ethereum blockchain applications, and now in the Polkadot ecosystem. So now in Scytale, we are building our own pair chain for the creation and management of decentralized communities. It will be the easiest place to grow, organize, and govern on chain. To give you a little bit of perspective about where we see communities in society today, We really believe that we're at the next evolution of society, what we like to call Society 3.0. We first saw society forms into tribes, communities, and nation states, but when those constructs grew too large and cumbersome, a new paradigm needed to rise, giving birth to the corporation. Now, the corporation was an effective method for local cooperation. However, with the dawn of the internet, a new paradigm's rising, what we like to call Society 3. We want to connect and collaborate with our fellow virtual neighbor, like we've been doing with our local neighbor, but we don't ultimately know who's sitting behind that screen. But now with the birth of blockchains and programmable money, we don't have to explicitly trust our virtual neighbor to do the right thing. We can trust our code, our tooling, and our infrastructure, and we can spend our time and energy on what really matters, pursuing our common interests through these decentralized communities. Now, looking at the problem, even though Web3 communities have been around for quite some time, they still face a number of challenges that prevent them from mass adoption. The first is the current gas fee model. It equals low participation for these communities. You're asking your community members to, one, purchase your token, but now you're actually asking them to pay for participation, whether that's creating proposals, voting on proposals, on-chain reputation systems. Now you might say, Graeme, we solved all this with governance scaling solutions. However, the governance scaling and the current L2 scaling solutions lead to poor user experience, because now you're actually asking your users to purchase two tokens, one for your community that you're part of, and actually one for the scaling solution to actually interact with it. This has led us back to our Web 2 ways and reliance on off-chain governance systems that cause a real problem for centralized treasury control. We currently just saw this problem happen with Arbitrum DAO, where $1 billion was taken from the foundation's treasury without the community's consent. Let's say you get past all of these barriers to participate. The fact of the matter is still hard and cumbersome to actually start and run your decentralized community. There's over 11 different categories of tools that you can use, and none of them actually integrate or work together. Well, let me introduce you to the solution, Scytale, where we're going to build our own specialized application chain for the creation and management of decentralized communities, where we're going to build the application layer and the infrastructure layer. We're going to combat those four problems that stayed in the previous slide by doing four main things. The first is offer free on-chain transactions for the community members so they don't have to actually pay to participate. We'll offer a subscription-based scaling solution so that the community can pay for all the gas fees for their community members so they don't have to actually purchase tokens to interact on-chain. We'll offer on-chain governance with treasury execution so that we won't have an Arbitrum DAO case on our hands. And then finally, we'll offer a community tooling marketplace so that we can have all the community tooling, all the Web3 community tooling on one chain, on one marketplace, and be the true home base for that community. Looking at the market opportunity, did you know that 76% of internet users actually interact with internet communities? And currently, with decentralized communities, there's already $24 billion of assets under management. Looking into the future, it's projected that the on-chain community revenue will increase to $200 billion. Now, a little bit of how this will look like for the users. They'll be able to log into the application, see the main dashboard for their community. They'll be able to switch over to a governance page to create proposals, vote on them, interact with them, treasury page to manage their community treasury, see all the NFTs and tokens that are in there, all the transactions that have gone through, a task page to create tasks and complete them, a members page so you can see everyone that's in your community and organization, their role. And then finally, on the left-hand side, they'll actually be able to manage all of the communities that they're a part of and have this one place to actually be able to manage everything that they're working with. Now, moving over to our community tooling app store, or what we like to call the Shopify app store for community tooling. Since we're building out our own blockchain and this infrastructure layer, we will use that layer to actually be the home base for this community tooling. We're looking to integrate into Web 2 applications such as accounting platforms, contractor management, incorporating your decentralized community, current dApps or smart contract applications, so advanced payroll systems, education systems, reputation-based systems that can actually deploy on our smart contract layer. And then finally, using Polkadot's cross-chain communication to integrate into DeFi products, identity products, privacy projects, so they don't have to build that directly on our chain, but can use the powers of XCM to actually be able to integrate with those and be the home base for all of this tooling. Now, Scytale really is building the infrastructure that will scale decentralized communities into the future. We are using the Substrate SDK to be able to do this because we know that it'll allow us to build a 10 times better product than what's currently out there on the market. And this cross-chain communication is the best in the industry that will actually allow us to connect into different ecosystems like Cosmos and Ethereum and be able to manage and support all those communities on those chains. Now, looking at our revenue model, we're going to collect revenue in two main fashions. The first is through our subscription payments. We'll offer a free service all the way up to an enterprise level service that will be determined by the number of members in your community and the amount of transactions that you're looking to take. The second way we'll collect revenue is through a revenue sharing of our community tooling app store. So we're looking to take 20% of all the transactions that actually go through the app store. Now, going on to our go-to-market strategy, we're looking at a three-pronged approach actually for this. So first, we'll tackle internet native communities or current decentralized communities. So we're working with NFT projects, social clubs, DAOs, and dApps. We currently have 10 projects that are looking to onboard into our testnet over the next 3 months. The next, we'll move to larger decentralized organizations. So you can think of large DeFi products, MakerDAO type style, and Polkadot itself. Actually trying to work with Polkadot and their treasury to see how we can increase bounty participation and bounty governance, but also maybe work with Polkadot to work with them for their conferences so we can actually have a community vote for Polkadot Decoded that's coming up. So everyone that gets an NFT issued for the event. Then finally, our third prong approach will be new Web 2 entrants. So the holy grail of getting new people actually into crypto and what we're all looking to do right now. We believe that our community and subscription-based product is actually the way to do this. We're trying to work with Electronic Music Festival right now that's looking to run their operations as a DAO. They want to onboard 300,000 people into their DAO. And how do you actually do that when the community members have never used Web 2 or Web 3 before, and they have to actually go purchase tokens? But by using our solution, everyone that gets an NFT as a ticket to go to this music festival will be able to interact on-chain with our product and be a voice in this DAO because they do not have to actually go purchase the token afterwards and go through an onboarding ramp and an exchange to actually do this and start interacting on-chain and be a new member and contributor to a Web3 organization. Looking at a competitive landscape, what I really want to highlight here is that there's a few projects out there trying to do this, building community tooling, building DAO tooling, but none of them can really combine everything that we're doing. The Substrate SDK really allows us to have that on-chain governance, automatic treasury execution, have that app store that we're looking to do, and be the first pioneers of this subscription-based solution because we really do see that governance systems are a productivity-based tool that can benefit from a subscription-based solution instead of a transactional-based one. Now, a little bit of where we've gone. We've had the privilege of being a part of many different programs. We were first a part of the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. Then we went through Outlier Ventures Basecamp Accelerator program. We got into the Substrate Builders program, Scytale Academy, which we're here with you today, and also the Berkeley Blockchain Accelerator coming up in the future. We also do have a number of different ecosystem partners, integration partners that we've been working with and really expanding out our network as we grow in the Polkadot ecosystem. A little bit about where we're going. Currently finishing off our pre-seed fundraising round, be launching our testnet in 3 weeks, onboarding our design partners, launching our seed fundraising in the fall, and then finally our mainnet in Q4 here. So you already know myself, but a little bit about our team. My co-founder, Tyler Gallatley, is here in the audience with us today. He is an operation and finance wizard. He's been building some SaaS-based enterprise startups for a number of years before he joined crypto. And a fun fact about us is that we've actually been best friends since high school and been looking to start a project together. And both of us being a part of a lot of decentralized communities, we knew that this was the project that we wanted to start and build together. We also have our CTO on board, 2 other developers, and community and marketing support, along with 11 different advisors that really round out our team from product, technical, legal, governance, you name it. Some of the advisors that are here in the audience with us today, actually. And so we've really assembled a team that will be able to scale decentralized communities into the future. Now, I have to do this part as well. We are currently raising a round, so we are raising $720,000 at a $9 million valuation. So if you're looking to invest, please come and find me afterwards. We are doing it in the form of equity and token warrants. And thank you very much. If I could leave you with something, it would be that to onboard the next set of users into Web3, it's not going to be through trading DeFi products. It's not going to be through zero knowledge proofs, but it will be through communities and it will be on Scytale.